start there. How do you do it? You're in charge of making this whole thing happen. How did you make this that seems impossible from where I sit happen? That's my first question to you.
Is
So
it? Well, it's collaborative. I'm going to say that it is
Yeah,
collaborative.
yeah. That's fine because you're modest. Okay, tell me when. Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Rappler Talk. Just last year, Hawaii passed a law which requires the state to generate 100% of its energy from renewable sources by 2045. Most of Hawaii's energy currently comes from imported oil. The government acknowledges that this threatens the state's natural resources and has jacked up electricity prices that's hurt both businesses and households. Like Hawaii, the Philippines imports most of its oil requirements. Our country has set its own goals to shore up renewable energy capacity and cut carbon emissions as part of the Paris Agreement on climate change, but with no plans of eliminating fossil fuel as our government approved 29 coal-fired power plants that are supposed to go online by 2020. And this is just as we actually made these commitments at the Paris Agreement, right? So what can the Philippines learn from Hawaii? Is it impossible to do what they've done? Is it possible to follow Hawaii's move? Let's find out today from Luis Salaverria. He's Hawaii's Director of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism. Thanks for coming around.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Maria.
This sounds insane to set a goal like this, 100% renewable energy. I guess, what made Hawaii do it?
There were many reasons and many factors that caused Hawaii to set this what we're calling landmark goals.
Yeah.
It was a landmark piece of legislation that Hawaii
So you didn't
passed.
say impossible dream, you said landmark goals. That's
Yes.
better than mine. Go. Yes.
So it was a landmark goal, and it's law. It's now law. We're mandated to reach 100% of our electricity generation in the state of Hawaii coming from renewable resources by 2045. And it was a collaborative effort between energy environmentalists, energy policymakers, legislators, the administration, everybody kind of coming together and recognizing that this was a significant problem for us. Like you said in the beginning of your talk, we import all of our fossil fuel, essentially our electrical generation, our energy. Our energy needs are all imported. Yet we in the state of Hawaii, if there's anything that Hawaii should be recognized for, it's sun,
right?
It's wind. And we also have, great geothermal resources.
Right.
If anybody has ever had the opportunity to visit, the volcanoes in the state of Hawaii, they'd probably find one of the most wonderful shows on this planet, actually. So with these resources, it just made logical sense that, why do we have to import our energy when we have these indigenous resources here at our fingertips? What we needed to do was just really set that goal, and kind of like that conversation we were having. I akin it to when President Kennedy in the early 60s basically said, we're going to land a man on the moon at the end of the decade. We don't know how we're going to get there. We don't even have the technology on how we're going to get there. But you know what? We're going to land a man on the moon. And so what we said is, we're going to be 100% renewable energy by 2045. And it took a lot of people together. We did it. We're setting a path, and we're not looking back.
You must have had pushback from the status quo. I mean, that's a lot of there would be vested interest to try to maintain it. Does it make energy more expensive? I mean, what kind of pushback did you get?
Well, a lot of the pushback it's new technology, it's disruptive. People are thinking, it's going to be expensive. Not everybody will be able to avail themselves to this technology. But because Hawaii is so highly dependent on imported fossil oils, we pay 2.5 times the national average in the United States. So in many ways, the economics of renewable energy really work for us. But again, as
getting from there to here
is a whole nother issue too as well, because we gotta implement the infrastructure. So there's going to be investment that's going to be required.
Right.
But as with any place, any state, any country, investment is good. We want the investment to come in that will help drive Hawaii's energy future forward. And, the pushback that we got, the status quo was really, is it going to be cost effective? Can we really get there? What are the things that are going to happen? And, there are other forces too that kind of drive, people's perception of things, because right now, be honest with you, oil is cheap.
Correct.
right? Oil is cheap, it
Particularly
makes
now,
sense.
right?
But there's one thing, and I learned this from a meeting that I had with a gentleman that I was just here. He explained to me that when you look at resources, any resource that's dependent upon, that's something that's resource generated, it's always going to cost more expensive in the
Right.
future.
Right.
Anything that's based upon a renewable or technology or any of that thing, it's going to get cheaper as
Cheaper
it
as
goes
time
as
goes,
time goes
right.
by. So why not? The long-term goal is always to go towards something that's renewable, whether it's wind, whether it's solar, whether it's ocean, whether it's biofuels, biomass, you name it, geothermal, all of these different things. These are things that we, not to make it sound any more grandiose, as a society, we really need to actually start putting our efforts into these
Right.
these things.
Right. Have you felt the effects, the impact of climate change?
Yes, Hawaii has. And I think any island state, any island nation is going to be the first people that are going to be susceptible to climate change.
Right.
And obviously, the state of Hawaii, we've seen areas, we've seen major beach erosion, we've seen the change in the climate. I grew up in Hawaii. I used to be able to walk. I didn't have to wear suntan lotion when I was growing up. Now I can't go out of
Without.
the house and not
Right.
put on suntan lotion. So
Right.
you feel the effects of this stuff, and these are social, not just economic. These are social. These are societal, problems and issues that we got to address going forward. And we have talk about these things. We have conferences and we tell these things, but we really got to put our efforts and really bring all of the right minds and the right people together. And that's why we're so focused on Hawaii being the center of the clean energy universe, of the globe. And that's what we want to do.
What were the hurdles that you had to get over before you could pass the bill?
A lot of it was getting all of the players
The players
together.
together.
The utility
Yeah.
was one thing. Getting the utility
Yeah.
to really focus in on, what the state policy was going to be around
Right.
energy. Looking at, we have 2 oil refineries in our state. Importing the oil, but they do refine
So
it, so
the
it's
losers,
a business.
you had winners and losers
There,
come together.
at the end of the day, I think, even these organizations are starting to recognize that if they don't evolve, they're just going to be left behind.
Got it.
Right? It's often overused, but I always say that one quote by the sheik that basically said the Stone Age didn't
Yes.
end because of a lack of stone, and well,
Yeah.
the oil age is going to end not because that there's a lack of oil. It will end because something is better is coming,
Right.
and that better is renewables.
So you brought the stakeholders to the table.
Yes.
There are winners and losers, and you kind of glossed over it by saying that they needed to evolve, right? So
Yes.
the losers figured out that you got them on board.
We got them on board, actually, and it started in 2007 and 2008 with the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative.
Right.
And the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative was essentially bringing in all of the stakeholders together to really kind of understand what would be the best direction for the state of Hawaii going forward. And this included the oil companies, this included the gas companies, it included the solar people, policymakers, environmentalists, you name it.
Yeah.
It included everybody together, and they came up with a roadmap. And that roadmap really dictated on how we were going to move on energy efficiency and renewable energy. And one of the things that we noticed, they set preliminary goals back
Yeah.
then. And when we reached our first benchmark, which was in 2015, in 2015 was the first benchmark, we were only supposed to be at 15%, or a 15% renewables. We're at 20%. So we've exceeded our goals already going forward.
Wow.
And that's why the legislature, when they saw we were running up into this, into this gate period where we saw this, they said, you know what? We're better than that. Let's go ahead and let's just set that target. Let's set that goal and just aim for what it is that we want to aim for, and that's 100% renewables.
How did you choose 2045?
I wish that there was some, significant, amount of analytics around it, but it was a goal that was set. And based upon our trajectory and where we were going, we felt that it was something that was achievable. And in fact, we don't feel it. We know that it is something achievable, and we think that everything that comes with it, all of the innovation, all of the thinking, all of the investments, and all of the attention is just maybe hopefully we can get there before 2045.
Was it difficult to get the oil companies, for example, the people who stand to lose, the people who have power now, who are making money out of it now, was it difficult to get them to accept this?
I wouldn't say that it was difficult to get them. Obviously, they probably weren't the most the aggressive or vocal people at the table,
Right.
but they just saw that this is the direction that our state wants to go.
Did you
And
push? Was it leadership driven? I mean, was it?
it was leadership driven. It was leadership driven, and with a fair degree of consensus and keeping people along.
So leadership and
is right.
social pressure, I
Yes.
suppose. Is it?
Yes,
So-
and a lot of that is driven by the population and what it is that they want. When you're paying 2.5 times the national average for electricity, you want solutions, and what this represented was a solution for our state.
What do you need to do now to hit this goal? And what are the benchmarks?
So there are gates, by several years down the line, we have to hit 40, we have to hit 45, 50, 75, and then 100. But what it's going to take going forward is innovation. It's going to take technology. It's going to take collaboration and bringing all of the stakeholders together. And so, we're really trying to focus a lot of attention on the state of Hawaii, especially in 2016.
Yeah.
So much things are happening in Hawaii in 2016. We have this Asia Pacific Clean Energy Summit that's happening in June. In September, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature is actually holding the World Conservation Congress in Hawaii too as well. So all of these things, energy, the environment, climate change, all of these issues are really happening, and it's all happening in the state of Hawaii. So I'm biased, and
And you are the man who is tasked with making this happen, right?
I'm one of many people that is part of an entire team, and I'm not going to say that it's all on my shoulders, because it, not to be cliché, but it does take a village, and in this particular case, there are many stakeholders and many people that are involved in this process.
What turned the tide? What gave Hawaii the political will to do this? I mean, you mentioned that there's the realities that you had to deal with, but I guess, was there a point? What pushed it?
That's a great question. I think it was a combination of looking at the economics, looking at the triple bottom line. The economics, the social, and the environmental all started to come in alignment all at
Economic,
once.
social, and environmental.
Yeah. And like they always say, it's like you reach this convergence of of all of the things happening at the same time, and it just made sense for our state to go down that road. And it's almost, I hate to say it, it happened. It happened organically, but with the right amount with the proper care and and nutrition, it really just happened. We've always thought about it. Environment is always a huge issue for the state of Hawaii. I mean, you look around, Hawaii is one of those places, it has a very special relationship with its environment.
Yeah.
And I know I've said it before, but that just makes it that much more important why we need to do everything we can in order to protect that.
So, of course, I'm super interested in what lessons we can learn from your experiences. I mean, what can you see the Philippines learning from what you're going through now?
Well, one of the things that I thought was very, encouraging, especially for me in my role, is that, we all talk about it as it's part of energy and everything, but, this thing, it creates new types of jobs, it creates innovation, it's actually, we look at it as an economic impetus versus being an economic hardship, actually. For
Really?
us. Yes, because, it's driving investment. We have companies that are looking to Hawaii to test bed their technologies in here, and that's creating a job in our state. So, and these are good jobs. These are professional jobs. These are skilled, technical, knowledge-based jobs. And in Hawaii, that's my role, is to take us and help evolve the economy for the state of Hawaii. Take us from being very dependent on tourism and the military is a big presence, a part of our GDP, but create that next part. And energy and the knowledge-based economy that comes with looking at this thing is going to be, that's the exciting part of my job.
Few people connect energy and broadband, and this is one of the things that I found fascinating when you said, how are they connected and how should we be thinking about them?
Well, definitely energy and broadband. So energy is going to be managed using information. Right now, you look at the regular electrical lines, it's only giving you electricity.
Yeah.
But the Internet of Things, all of these things, how do you manage electricity? How do you understand demand utilization? All of these different things. It's everything is information, and you can't. They always say right? It's the adage. You can't improve what you don't measure.
Right.
And the only thing that the only way that you're going to measure this thing is if you have information, and the only way you're going to get it is if you have broadband, and the two really intersect and come together, and that's what's going to create the most efficient energy, environment for our state, and I think for the rest of the world.
So I'm very envious, because I think I guess for us here in the Philippines, December last year we went to COP21,
Yes.
and we promised to cut 70% of our carbon emissions. But at the same time, we were doing that with the left hand. The right hand was actually approving coal-fired powered plants that would bring up coal 70% in the next decade.
Yes.
From where we are right now, how do you see us getting to a place where we can, I can't even think 100% yet. I mean, how do you see the Philippines progressing forward?
You know, I wrestle with it quite often. You know, one of the things that even in my role, I have to always be cognizant of is how we deploy this energy. Is it going to be, you know, cost effective? At the end of the day, one of the things you want to make sure that everybody is able to avail themselves to this technology and
Yes.
to this energy future. So there are transitions along the way. You know, every country, every state are going to have, you know, different paths on how to get there. But the issue is just never lose sight of what it is that you're trying to accomplish at the end. And if the issue is about energy independence or security or reliability or protecting the environment, you always have to understand that that's ultimately the goal that you're trying to achieve. And so, you know, I think the Philippines has got to understand what their energy needs are going to be going forward, and help ensure that as it progresses down the road, as it looks at its mix of energy,
Yes.
that it's not losing sight of what's important going forward, and that's making sure that, you know, that we're protecting the environment.
So
and we're getting that.
again, I'm curious about how you got the stakeholders all together, because that's our
It
problem,
was
right?
that was a little bit forced. There was a little bit forced.
So that's,
you know,
because for us, the people who actually benefit from this system
Yeah.
now really are holding on, and
it took our political leaders to put everybody together in a room and hammer it out and start talking about the things that needed to happen, and they kind of set this target. You know, you put people in a room and you say you don't leave until you guys come up with a solution. Sometimes works.
is that really, that was it?
That was, you know, not to oversimplify it, but I think that was a big part of it. Yes.
Was there one leader who pushed it forward?
I think, you know, the governor back then, Linda Lingo, was a big supporter of that. But every governor since then has been.
It's because
just
of
big,
Hawaii.
because it's Hawaii, and because it just makes logical sense. The business leaders were talking about it. You know, our politicians, our local elected leaders were talking about it. So there was a significant amount of political will to just move forward, and that really was the tipping point. If you really want to talk about it, that was the tipping point when the policymakers and the decision makers really say, "I'm sorry, okay, you know, they weren't thinking about 100% back then, but they already knew we got to do something." And you know, as what any good organization does, it takes it and it tries to make it even better every single time.
So going from that, finding the political will when you put all the stakeholders together to where it's 100%. What timetable is that? Like when you guys all got together, someone said, "Let's do this," to execution and to 100%. How many years are you talking about?
Well, that started in 2008, 2007.
2007,
Right.
2008.
So, but the law was passed in 2015 and
15.
established it in 2045. So that's a 30-year time frame. So, you know, so it is going to take that long. It's not
Right. 30 years.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
not a simple.
That's the lifespan of some of these guys. That's how old they are. Okay,
It's
we need
gonna
to
be-
get this started now.
That's what I
Holy
say.
cow. So
I-
it really is that long. That's the timetable you looked at,
Yes,
30 years.
yes. And that's the way where you know, disruption it happens, right? And I always tell everybody, one of the things that we need to be careful of when we move into this really disruptive environment is that we're not leaving people behind.
Yes.
And that it's not going to be so disruptive that people just walk away from it.
Correct.
And that's the delicate balance. That's a fine line that we constantly walk.
And lessons learned from trying to find that line. What lessons have you learned that you would pass on to us as we start this path?
You know, I think you have to listen to every stakeholder, even the stakeholders that you don't want to listen to.
Yeah.
And you have to understand everybody's point of view, but be clear and succinct in terms of what the goals are. And for the state of Hawaii, it's 100% renewable energy. And then also, really espouse the benefits of what it is that you're going to accomplish, because it's not just the energy sector. It's not just somebody turning on their lights and making sure that that light bulb goes on. It's new jobs, right?
Yeah.
It's new types of opportunities for our residents in the state of Hawaii to become a data analyst that's not working in an IT kind of thing, working for the electric company, for example.
Yeah.
So there's all of these different things that the shape and form of the future of energy is something that is not going to look anything like what it looks like today. And I'm just hope that I'll be around to see that.
Oh, well, you're going to make it happen by 2045. I guess when you look at the Philippines now, the last question is, we're at the beginning stages of this where we don't have consensus. In fact, I think this is more like climate change debate in the States again, where the arguments still seem like it's...
They're deniers.
And they seem equal to many people. How were you able to cascade it to people in Hawaii, to the Americans living in Hawaii, that this is important for Hawaii? How were you able to get bottom-up support?
Yeah, and not everybody is not.
Not everyone agrees.
Not everybody agrees.
Okay.
So it's not that every single person in the state of Hawaii thinks that this is the path that we got to go to, but this is the this is the burden of policymakers, and the burden of policymakers have got to take a look at what is it going to take for Hawaii to achieve the future that it wants to achieve, and so the Philippines is embarking, and it's kind of really at the beginning, the infancy stage of this whole process.
Right.
But I see a lot of a lot of potential. Al Gore was here several months ago talking about what climate change is.
Right. We ran the workshop with Climate Reality.
I lived in the Philippines at a very young age. I still remember what it's like during a monsoon period and looking at at floods and all of those things. And those things are just going to get worse, right? And so. Let's be real with ourselves and and find out what it is that we want for the future of the Philippines, right? I consider myself a Filipino, and so I want.
I forgot to say that, Filipino roots. An American living in Hawaii with Filipino roots.
So I want prosperity. I want the economics and all of I want the triple bottom line for the Philippines, and so even as the country embarks on this particular process, don't lose sight of that triple bottom line and making sure that all of those things are hit.
Explain again the triple bottom line.
The triple bottom line, making sure that the economics work. That you're not leaving. There's not in the end, everybody's going to be a winner, not necessarily somebody's a winner. Somebody may be a winner, somebody may be a loser in the short run, but in the long run, everybody's going to be a winner. That's the economics of it. The social aspect, the fact that everybody is going to be availing themselves, the affluent, the not affluent, the middle class, everybody's going to be able to avail themselves at the same time. And it's very parallel, it's very managed, because what happens is you don't want to divide to
Haves
continue
and
to
have-nots
happen,
again, right.
And then the last part is just making sure that you're doing it for the environment, because if you're not doing it if you're not protecting the environment, what are you doing it for?
Economic, social, environment, the triple bottom line. I like that. I'm going to borrow that.
Please,
triple bottom line.
I borrowed it from somebody else.
Yeah. So, your last thoughts, I guess, because we're just embarking on this, and the crazy thing is the Philippines has actually had the worst of what climate change has done.
Yes.
The worst typhoon or super typhoon to hit land hit the Philippines.
Yes.
We see it. It's so hot outside right now.
Yes.
Climate change isn't a myth for us. It's a reality we're living through. What you know about us here, what are our pros and cons? How can we jumpstart this moving forward?
Me coming here was really, I'll be honest with you, it wasn't about me coming here to tell the Philippines about what we're doing in Hawaii. It was actually me coming here to learn about the Philippines. The Philippines is the second largest consumer of geothermal energy in the world. It has a Philippine company is the largest geothermal developer on the globe, and it's a Filipino company. So I came here to learn from the Philippines. The skill set, the knowledge, the expertise exists in this country, and so
why aren't we using it?
That's probably a question for yourself, but I want to use it for the state of Hawaii. And I think if there was any piece of advice, I think it should be really used here
I
too
guess
as well.
part of the argument is that, and I've heard this from officials saying that it's just too expensive right now, that
Yeah.
our people are too poor, that
Yeah.
the price of electricity will jack up. How do
Yeah.
you get beyond these very pragmatic arguments?
Well, the economics, have got to work. And like I said, in the state of Hawaii, the economics
Yes,
do work.
yes.
There's still technical challenges that
Yes.
increase costs and all
Yeah.
of these different things. But, you know, you have to look at it, it's not it might be very expensive now. You make the capital investment in right now, but the payoff period is decades. It's over decades. You have
Yeah.
to look at the long run
Yeah.
implications of the decisions that are being made today. And so, utilizing the resources, whether it's geothermal, whether it's solar, or whether it's wind, it's the investments that are today. The technology is good. The technology has evolved quite significantly. These things are getting even better, and the technology is even getting better.
So Al Gore talked about this. In fact, when I asked him the same question, he said the technology is going to make it cheaper. What
Yeah.
exactly does that mean?
As more people adopt this thing, and as
Yeah.
the technology gets better and better and better and more efficient, it actually will get cheaper. The cost of a solar panel is actually coming
Yeah,
down because
yeah,
more
yeah,
people
yeah.
are adopting it. And
Yeah.
not only is it coming down, is that the technology, the solar panels are becoming even more efficient even. So,
yeah, and over time, then the cost of that energy is much cheaper than what we're spending now. So
Yes.
it's actually delayed gratification is what we have,
Yes, yes.
and delayed gratification over 30 years.
Yeah.
Where our political leaders, are you guys listening? Delayed gratification. How do you convince the people that this cost is worth it now?
Ooh,
You must have to get the stakeholders, right? I mean,
Yes.
you couldn't have done it if it wasn't politically, if the people in Hawaii didn't want it. How did you make them want it?
we really kind of we showed them the numbers. And when the
Okay.
numbers didn't work,
So education.
education. We showed them the numbers, and if the numbers didn't work, if you can't win through the facts, win through emotion. And so we really kind of says, what are we doing this for?
Yeah.
Right? And it is about the environment. It is about, we call children, like mga bata,
Yeah.
but we call them keiki. So there's a big thing that we talk about in Hawaii. We do it for the kids, for the keiki. And it seems cliche-ish and it seems kind of somewhat cheeky and stuff, but that's essentially why we're moving down this road. So
Fantastic. Your last thoughts.
no, I'm absolutely amazed, and my visit here to the Philippines was on a professional level is probably one of the most successful delegations that I've ever gone on. This trip has really opened my eyes and what the potential for collaborative relationship between the state of Hawaii and the Philippines can be. Over 50% of the people in the state of Hawaii identify themselves as being Filipino or part
right,
Filipino.
right.
So why shouldn't we make sure that we have such a strong relationship with the
And
Philippines?
what does that
and Hawaii?
mean when you're looking at what our renewable energy companies are doing here? Are you looking at buying from them or having them set up in Hawaii? Or should
I would
not?
love for them to have to set up. I would love for them to bring their expertise. I would love for
There.
them to invest
Got
in
it.
the state of Hawaii.
Right.
I would love for them to learn from some of the things that we're doing too as well.
Got it.
I talked about the startup companies that are
Yes.
happening in Hawaii because of our aggressive goals that we're doing. If there's an opportunity, some of these startup companies that are happening in Hawaii could come over here to the Philippines.
Yeah.
Hawaii's not going to be the Silicon Valley it's not going to be the tech center of the world. It's not going to be the entertainment capital of the world or the fashion capital of the world. But it can become the renewable capital of the world, and that's what we're trying to do.
We hope to meet you there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've been speaking with Luis Salaverria. He's Hawaii's Director of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism. I'm Maria Ressa. I want to tell you our conversation, you really have to listen for it, but it's brought to you partly with Green Convergence. Thanks for watching. Keep tweeting questions. See you soon.
Thank you.
That was fun.